Hello, everybody, and welcome to one more class in our secret garden. Today, we are going to work on one of the songs that, had I not decided to do this in order, would have probably been the first song that I would have chosen to do. We are going to be working on the third track off of the anthology side of the Torture Poets department, none other than the Albatross. And the Albatross, anybody here who listened to the episode of the Swifty cast, the one that I was a guest in, they asked, which variant was I most excited to hear? And my answer was the Albatross. Just because, obviously before she released the album, everybody was speculating based off of the titles. And there's so much with the Albatross. There's so many references, and we have the bird itself. We have the popular idiom in English that we use in regards to an albatross. We have the poems. So I was like, this song could be jam-packed. And Taylor did not disappoint because it is jam-packed with references, expressions. So guys, this class is going to be one of those class. One, we need to have an introduction. So I have a lot of things that we have to talk about before we actually get into the song. So grab a chair, sit down, grab your water, grab your coffee, because this is going to be a big one, okay? So let's start with the animal, the albatross, right? Only Taylor Swift for us to actually go on and learn about a random bird. But guys, what a magnificent bird. I don't know about you, but I learned a lot of cool, fun facts about albatrosses, right? One, they are a seabird. Basically, they live off in the sea and they rarely come to land. They have the largest wingspan of any bird on Earth that could go up to 12 feet, which would be about 3.5 meters, which is giant, right? They mate for life, right? Which actually I learned, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are monogamous. So they have their little illicit affairs here and there, but they do choose one mate. And they do that by doing this very elaborate dance, which I thought was so cool because Taylor does use dancing as a metaphor, right, in her songs to being in a relationship. So even the birds taught us this, right? This little dance metaphor. They can live up to 60 years. I think the oldest albatross on record is about 75 years old or something, which is a record. And they have babies up until the end of their lives, which is pretty wild. But these are birds that are at risk for extinction, basically because of human activities. So we do have to protect these birds while we can. And there are a lot of superstitions in regards to these birds, right? And these superstitions come exactly from a poem, the poem that we have all been talking a lot about, called The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And this poem is written by none other than Samuel Taylor Coleridge. If you guys remember watching my The Lakes Live, he is one of the Lakes poets, right? Taylor references Wordsworth and the poets who went to die at the lakes, and he was Wordsworth's best friend. They wrote lyrical ballads together, and I actually learned that Wordsworth criticized Samuel about this poem because if you guys research this poem, it is very long, okay? So what I'm going to do is give you a summary of this poem because it is actually divided into 7 parts. I'm going to link down below on YouTube if you are a fan of The Lord of the Rings, which I am a huge fan of, and you love Gandalf. The actor Ian McKellen, he read The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and it's lovely to listen to this poem with his voice. So I'm going to link that down below so that you can listen to this poem. It is 30 minutes long, so prepare whenever you have a half an hour. Say, okay, I'm ready to listen. It is written in an older English, but it is still doable. It is a poem, so it's going to be broken down into smaller parts. So I do think it's a nice thing for you to do and challenge yourself and listen to this poem or read it. Okay, I included the poem in written form as well in your material. What I will do is summarize each part of the poem, because I feel like most people heard what the poem is about, but if you actually look at what's in every part, you will really get a full picture and see how there's a lot more in this poem that has inspired Taylor throughout other songs as well. Okay, so in the first part of the poem, we are introduced to this ancient mariner, this sailor, and he is stopping a wedding guest to tell this story, to tell this tale. And he begins to describe this trip that he took out in the ocean. So he was setting sail with a crew when he encountered an albatross. And in this first moment, this albatross was a sign of good luck. It was a good omen. It helped them to get out of a sticky situation when they were at sea. However, by the end of the first part, inexplicably, this guy goes and kills the albatross. And in part two, we start seeing the consequences of this action, because the ship is then cursed and they become stranded with no wind and no water. And here we are going to have the origin of the popular idiom that we have in English to have an albatross around one's neck, because the crew of the ship takes the carcass, the body of the albatross, and they hang it around the mariner's neck to punish him for what he has done. So now in part three, this is what a lot of people don't talk about when they talk about this poem, is that there's a lot of supernatural forces in this poem, because a ghostly ship approaches them, and this ship is led by death and life in death. And basically, they are there to decide what the fate of the ancient mariner and the crew and the ship will be. And they do this by throwing a dice, right? Taylor uses a lot of these metaphors with card games and playing cards and throwing dices. And when they do this, life and death takes the mariner and death takes the crew. So the entire crew dies, and now the mariner is going to suffer. He's going to be punished in life for his actions. So now in part four, the mariner is all alone out at sea, surrounded by his dead crew, and he really wants to pray to find some sort of redemption, but he can't pray. Not until he starts to appreciate all the life that surrounds him, right? The animals, the fish, the birds, the ocean. So once he does that, then he's finally able to pray, and the albatross falls from his neck. Then in part five, the mariner sleeps and he dreams of rain, and then when he awakes, his crew comes back to life through spirits. So there's like a bunch of spirits there helping everybody come to life, and they help them move the ship. And at the same time, these spirits are discussing his life, his fate. What is going to happen to this mariner? And in part six, it's his ship moving, going towards land. And the mariner is hearing these voices of these spirits deciding his fate. And finally, when he arrives at land, the crew is dead once again. Taking us to the final part of the poem, where the mariner is rescued, his ship sinks, and then he feels compelled to travel around the world telling his tale, telling his story, so that others could avoid making the same mistake that he did, right? He really wanted to drive home the fact that he learned his lesson, and the lesson learned being that we must all love all of God's creations. So when we stop and we analyze all the themes that are contained in this poem, you can see that there's so much of it that Taylor used throughout her discography, and especially in the Torture Poets, right? This idea of the natural and the supernatural, right? Fate, the idea of sin and redemption, right? She talks a lot about sins in this album. Isolation, right? The fact that the mariner only learned his lesson because he was alone and he was able to contemplate nature and his feelings and come to the realization that he came to, right? This reminds me a lot of the pandemic and the time that we were isolated. And the fact that Taylor was isolated, right, for a long period of time. And I feel that that's when she really had time to process everything that she had gone through in her life, in her career, in her relationships. That relationship that she was in and the previous relationships, truly learning, I think, what is actually good for her and what she wants out of life in a relationship and her career. So all of these things, right, interweave in her narrative. The fact of taking moral responsibility for your actions, right? It seems like just like the mariner going around and, telling everybody, every person that he encounters this story, this lesson. And Taylor seems to repeat a few certain lessons of her own, almost as if like she really wants us to learn, right, from our mistakes, from her mistakes. So you can see all of that intertwined in her discography. We also have another poem called The Albatross, written by Charles Baudelaire. This is a French poem, and I also have it attached for you to see. And this is also connected. Like, I feel Taylor was able to connect both of these poems into this song, because in Charles' poem, he's describing an albatross as this magnificent creature, right? This bird. He says that he's a king of the sky, right? But once that bird lands, right, its wings are so big, they're so giant that he's very awkward and he can't walk and he stumbles and he falls and everybody makes fun of him, right? And he's no longer this grandiose, this incredible, wondrous thing. And he compares that albatross to a poet, right? And how society looks and treats at people who are sensitive, right? Who are tortured because they see things in a way that most other people don't, right? Anyone who tries to pursue the arts is deemed as, irresponsible, immature, ridiculous, stupid, right? So we are going to see how Taylor is going to connect these ideas into her song. So let's get to it finally. And we will touch back on all of these ideas and themes whenever they come up into the song. Here we go.
Wise man once said.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. Literally, we're gonna go line by line, right? So you pause if you want to try to give your own opinion before I give mine. Go ahead and do that, okay? Then you listen to me and you see, how close we are, what our thoughts are here, okay? So, wise men once said, okay? This is how Taylor opens up the song. And it's going to be very important because these wise men are going to play a very big role in this song, and we will see, right, in the theme of the song as well. Who are these wise men, right? If not men who are older, right? who have a lot of experience, right? They've lived a lot, they've seen a lot, they've experienced a lot, they have a lot of perspective, and that gives them wisdom, right? So it's not just about intelligence, but it's intelligence with experience, and that is what creates wisdom. And because of all this experience that they've had, they've learned some universal truths, right? So these are things that we see that get repeated over and over, generation after generation. So these sayings get passed down, right, as warnings, as guides. And we will see the first thing that they are going to say.
Wild winds are death to the candle.
Wild winds are death to the candle. Okay, so now anyone who has ever lit up a candle knows very well, right? In any birthday party, if there's any air, right, any wind blowing, that candle will not light at all, right? The fire will go out. So here, this line shows us the fragility of something delicate in the face of chaotic forces, right? These wild winds. And wild winds, of course, here will represent Taylor, her being this unruly, wild woman. And the candle will be our muse, okay? And of course, this does bring us back to the classic Elton John song, Candle in the Wind, right? And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind. Okay. I will never quit my day job, don't worry, guys, and I won't torture you too much with my singing. But that's a song that he wrote for Marilyn Monroe. And later he adapted it to Princess Diana when she passed away. And again, even in that song, you kind of get the same idea of, these women, these unruly, wild women that dared not to follow societal convention and pay the price, right? They were put out by these wild winds, right? They were the wild wind and they were the candle at the same time, almost, right? So that's an interesting thought for us to have.
Rose by any other name is a scandal.
A rose by any other name is a scandal, right? And here she is making an allusion to Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, the famous quote that Juliet says, a rose by any other name would smell less sweet, right? So in Romeo and Juliet, that line represents that it doesn't matter what your name is, right? What kind of name you have. What matters is your essence, right? There, in that story, in the play, she is trying to justify the fact that she fell in love with an enemy, right? A mortal enemy from her family. Their love was forbidden. And she said, this is ridiculous. A name shouldn't matter. What matters is who you are as a person, your character, right? However, right, in the song, Taylor says actually the name does matter, right? A rose by any other name is a scandal. And we can attest to that by looking back and looking at every single relationship that Taylor has ever had that has been in the media. And it's always, right, clickbait, headlines, and it doesn't matter who she is, people always has something to say. So it is a scandal. Whether the relationship is a scandal, the breakup is a scandal, it's always being sensationalized. So this is what she is talking about here in this line.
Cautions issued, he stood shooting the messenger.
Okay, cautions issued, he stood. Okay, so whenever cautions issued, it means that someone issued caution. Somebody gave a warning. But what did he do? He stood, right? Whenever somebody stands, it's almost like we have an expression to stand your ground. It means that you are not going to move. You're not going to change your mind. You are determined. And what is he doing? Shooting the messengers. Okay, so this is a reference to a popular expression that we have in English, to shoot the messenger. And that goes back, back in the day, whenever somebody had bad news and they delivered those bad news, people would actually shoot at them and sometimes kill them. So a lot of people, they couldn't differentiate the fact that this person is giving you such awful news, but they are just the messenger of the news, right? They're not responsible for the news, but people couldn't make this distinction in the past. So the messenger always suffered, right? So this guy, he is shooting the messengers. He is not listening to the caution, right? He is going ahead with this relationship. So today is very common for you to hear like, okay, don't shoot the messenger, right? I'm just a messenger, don't shoot me, alluding to this little expression.
They tried to warn him about her. Cross your thoughtless heart.
Okay, so now we are in the chorus, okay? The chorus will increase. She will add to the chorus each time that she sings it, okay? So in this first chorus, this is still the point of view from these wise men, okay? So they say, cross your thoughtless heart, right? So this is a line that she's playing around with the expression to cross your heart. The full one is cross my heart, hope to die. And this is something that typically children say. They're like, okay, cross my heart, hope to die. Whenever you are making a promise and that you really mean what you say, right? That you're not going to go back on your word and that you are telling the truth. And a lot of people believe that this is an expression that originated as like a religious oath, like a serious promise that is based on the Gospel book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 33 to 37. And this is when Jesus tells everybody that, they should keep their promises, but they shouldn't use the Lord's name in vain, right? They shouldn't promise saying God's name. So in a way to teach children not to say the Lord's name in vain, they created this little poem, and that's how they used to swear, right? Instead of actually swearing. And it goes like this: cross my heart and hope to die, stick a needle in my eye. Wait a minute, I spoke a lie. I never really wanted to die. But if I may, and if I might, my heart is open tonight. Though my lips are sealed and my promise is true, I won't break my word to you. And now basically we just say, cross my heart, hope to die, right? And I cross my heart and I hope to die. A lot of you probably know this expression from the Maroon 5 song. Okay, but here it's cross your thoughtless heart, right? What does it mean to be thoughtless, right? This means that you are actually not thinking. So it's almost like these wise men are saying like, you are making a promise that you are not thinking clearly or deeply about. Like you are not aware of the consequences of the choice that you are making. And then they go on to say,
Only liquor anoints you.
only liquor anoints you. Whenever we think about something that is anointed, it's something that is blessed, right? It's something that is special. And usually whenever we think about anointing, it means that it's rubbing with some kind of oil, right? And this is usually part of a religious ceremony, right? Whenever they want to heal somebody that is sick, or they want to appoint somebody, like designate somebody as like with a new position, they do this kind of anointing, okay? So what does it mean only liquor anoints you, right? That this person, this mused, is finding his blessings through alcohol, right? So it's almost a way like these wise men are saying that you don't know what you are doing because you find solace through drinking, right? It's almost as if like they see him as this careless man, right? He drinks and he doesn't think things through. And they're trying to kind of like diminish him in that sense, okay? And then they're gonna continue saying,
She's the albatross. She is here to destroy you.
okay, she's the albatross. She is here to destroy you, right? So here we are going to go back, right, to the introduction of the class, and Taylor's going to be alluding to those two poems and that popular idiom that we say in English, to have an albatross around your neck. And it's so interesting. And I mean, I find it very fascinating actually, because I didn't think about this until I actually read the poem and understood the story. Because what stuck with society is the curse of the albatross, right? The fact that the albatross caused, all those terrible things to happen. But the truth is that it wasn't the albatross that caused those things to happen. It was the action of the mariner, the action of the men. So, what stuck with society all these years after that poem wasn't the fact that the albatross was actually something good, right? Something pure, that the albatross actually saved him, right? In the first moment. But the punishment of him killing the albatross became the symbol, not the man himself, right? So whenever we have an albatross around our neck, we are referring to something that is a problem to us, that is a burden that we have to carry, right? And it's very associated with guilt and shame, right? It's something that is there weighing you down. It feels like a curse. So you can say, imagine you have an old car that always breaks down, and whenever you need it the most, and you're like, man, this old car is an albatross around my neck, right? Or you have a coworker that is like destroying the team's morale and ruining projects, and you're like, this coworker is an albatross around our team's neck. So whenever you want to describe something that really has become a problem that you can't escape and go around, like you need that car and you need that coworker there for whatever reason, you call it an albatross around your neck. But is the albatross really the problem? Was he the cause of the curse and everything bad that happened? No, right? The same thing with Charles's poem. Was the albatross the problem? Right? No, he just was out of his environment, right? An albatross is meant to fly over the ocean. He's not meant to be walking on land, right? So here, whenever they say she's an albatross, she's here to destroy you, it's almost as if like Taylor is combining both albatrosses in one, meaning she is going to curse you and your life is going to become hell after this if you're with her. And if whatever happens doesn't work out, she is a poet and she's going to write about you and ruin your life and destroy you in that sense, right? So it's like, no, there's a lose-lose situation here, right? So this is what they are trying to warn this muse about her.
Wise men once said, one bad seed kills the garden.
Okay, so now in this verse, the speaker will be Taylor. Okay, the woman is speaking now, and she is going to tell us what these wise men have said about her, okay, and what they have done to her. And she says, wise men once said, one bad seed kills the garden, right? So this is another popular saying, which means, right, the tiniest little negative influence can destroy, right, an entire situation or an environment, which technically, if we go back to this phrase specifically, one bad seed doesn't kill a garden from what I've researched. which begs the question, right, if this is true or not. But if we do have an expression that says, right, one bad apple rots the bunch. So if you have one fruit that has gone bad, it will ruin the rest of the barrel of fruits. So we can take it as that idea, right? So one little negative influence will ruin everything, right? One bad seed kills the garden.
And one less temptress, one less dagger to sharpen.
Right? One less temptress, one less dagger to sharpen, right? So, of course, she is the bad seed, right? She is the temptress. Now, who is a temptress if not a woman who is somebody capable of seducing men, right? They lure man. And it's very interesting. The temptress is a very popular trope in literature and art in general of a woman that leads the hero of the story astray, right? They lead them to trouble. So here they're saying, right, she is a bad woman. She is a sinner, a temptress. And then they say, one less dagger to sharpen. I always think of a dagger as like a miniature sword, right? So think about that sharp knife, sword. Is a weapon, right? For you to kill, hurt somebody. So they're saying if we remove this temptress out of our way, our path, right? One less temptress, we don't have to prepare our weapons and use it, right, against her. So here they're making it very clear that she is a threat, right? That they have to remove her from society. And how do they do that?
Locked me up in towers, but I'd visit in your dreams, and they tried to warn you about me.
Right? Locked me up in towers, right? So they locked her up away. They took her out of society. They shunned her, right? They removed her. But was that enough, right, to break the bond that she had forged with her lover, right? No, because even though she was away, she would still visit him in her dreams, right? So here it shows that their connection was something, you know, beyond the physicality of it all, right? It was something almost supernatural where she would visit him in his dreams, right? And the mariner had many dreams in his voyage out at sea as well, linking back to that supernatural force. And they tried to warn you about me, right? So he was warned, but it seems that he made his choice, and we will see that as we move along in the song.
Cross your thoughtless heart, only liquor anoints you. She's the albatross, she is here to destroy you. Devils that you know, raise worse hell than a stranger.
Right, so here this is the wise men speaking again in the chorus, but she added this part, right? So devils that you know raise worse hell than a stranger. And this is a play in the words on another popular expression that we have in English that says, better the devil you know than the devil you don't, right? Which means basically that it's better to pick a familiar problem, like a problem that you know, that you are used to, than getting a whole new problem that you are not familiar with, okay? But of course, in true Taylor Swift fashion, she's gonna flip this little expression. She'll say, actually, the devil that you do know raise worse hell than a stranger, right? And this is something that Taylor has been speaking a lot, especially starting with folklore, that, you know, whenever somebody is very close to you and they know you very well, it's like they know you. They know how to hurt you the most, right? They know which buttons to push and, you know, how to really get under your skin. So she's saying, actually, this person is more dangerous because they know you so well, right? So basically, the wise men are telling him, like, you have gotten too close to this woman. Like, she knows you too well. Like, she has an advantage now over you.
She's the death you chose. You're in terrible danger.
She's the death you chose. You're in terrible danger, right? So here, she's making clear that he did choose her. He did choose to be with her. Whether, he thought things through or not, it was a deliberate, conscious choice that he made. And according to the wise men, he is in terrible danger.
That's Kyrie's.
So now, in the bridge, the woman is gonna become the speaker once again, and she's actually kind of agreeing with the wise men, like, you actually are in danger a little bit, right? And what danger is that, right? And when that sky rains fire on you, kind of image that we have, right? It makes an allusion to the biblical passage where, this will be a punishment for our sins. And of course, this is a huge theme in the poem, The Rhyme and the Mariner. And the sky raining fire is going to be when the whole world turns their back on this guy, right? They're going to just come full force, everybody criticizing, talking shit about him. And she's adding,
And your persona non grata.
I love that, the way she sings it, right? And you're a persona non grata, right? Who is persona non grata? An unwelcomed person, right? So, and we can discuss about who the song is about. I think it's about a few people in different times in her life. But if you were somebody who was beloved before, suddenly everybody is going to hate you, right? So whether you are beloved where in the community that you are coming from, right? Whether this was an actor, a singer, a sports, an athlete, okay. Whether you were an actor, a singer, or an athlete, right? You were welcomed. Suddenly, you are no longer welcomed, okay? They are going to turn their back on you and they're going to hate you, okay?
I tell you how it and none of it matters.
I'll tell you how I've been there too, and none of it matters, right? So here she is sympathizing with him and saying, listen, I've been there, like been there, done that. I've gone through this, I was loved and beloved until everybody hated me and I was persona non grata. So what you realize when you go through this experience is the things that are truly important in your life, right? The people who are really people who love you for who you are and they didn't buy into, right, the entire narrative. Like, it's almost like a way to separate, right, the good ones from the rotten ones in the bunch. So she's saying, don't worry, like, this will happen. So this is what I mean. Like, she's saying, okay, this actually probably most likely will take place. So be ready, be prepared, but know that it's not something that you should be concerned with, or it's not that important, because I think probably she suffers so much when she was canceled, and she was persona non grata, that now, with experience, with the time passing, with perspective, she realizes, like, okay, why did I waste so much time and energy in that? Why did I suffer so much when, like, this is my real life. Like, these are my true loved ones, and these are the people that truly matter, right? So she's letting him know this here.
Wise men once read fake news and they believed it.
So now, wise men once read fake news and they believed it, right? to me, right, ever since we started with that, like one bad seed kills the garden, I was wondering, because if wise men believe fake news, are they actually wise? Right? Are these men that we've been trusting for so long and listening to and following their advice and their rules, are they actually, real? And is it true? Is it good? And fake news obviously is a term that has become very popular over the last few years, especially in political discourse. So you will be hearing this a lot this year, being a political year in the United States. But I'm just going to raise this little flag here, right? Are these wise men actually wise if they are believing in fake news? Okay, or maybe is she showing that even wise men are fallible and make mistakes and are not perfect? Okay.
Jackals raise their hackles. You couldn't conceive it.
Okay. Jackals raise their hackles. You couldn't conceive it. Okay. Who are the jackals, right? Jackals are wild dogs. Think of a hyena. Okay. Guys, there isn't one animal that I hate the most but a hyena. Ugh. I hate them. I hate to say that I hate any animal, but I really don't like hyenas. I'm sorry. Before, my most hated animal were opossums. I hate them. They're giant rats, but I actually do love them now. I changed my mind, and they are great moms. Okay, but I digress. So here, what are hackles? Hackles are the hairs in the back of an animal. You know when they go and they attack, or whenever they feel like threatened, or like, and they want to either defend themselves or attack, and they raise their hairs. These are the hackles, right? So jackals raise their hackles. So she paints this image of these like animals, reacting very aggressively, very defensively, right? And jackals, just like hyenas, they're, if you call somebody a jackal, basically you're calling them like a coward, right? These are not cool animals. Like they will attack anything and anyone. They don't have any sense of like honor or loyalty, like a wolf, for example. It's like such a loyal animal. We learn so much from them. Jackals have a terrible reputation and are usually deemed like dishonest, okay? And she says, right, you couldn't conceive it. Whenever you can't conceive of something, it's like you can't even imagine. Like you wouldn't believe it if I told you. Like if you had to see it with your own eyes, because it was so crazy, like the whole situation, the way that these people reacted. Right?
You were sleeping soundly when they dragged you from your bed, and I tried to warn you about that.
Right? You were sleeping soundly when they dragged you from your bed. Look at this image, right, that she creates for us here of somebody very innocently sleeping. Whenever we are sleeping soundly, it has nothing to do with making sounds. It just means deeply sleeping. When you are in your REM sleep cycle and you're there, dreaming, having a great time, resting, and suddenly you are dragged from your bed, right? So this is a very unexpected, like forceful type of action. And it's like a wake up, like to reality, right? This person was innocent, wasn't doing anything, wasn't bothering anybody, and they are being dragged, right? I wanted to teach you guys another expression that we have. It's a slang that is called to be dragged. And we say this a lot on the internet, when somebody does something, then the entire internet just falls on top of them, almost like that sky raining fire on you, and everybody's criticizing, cursing, humiliating this person. This is called to be dragged, right? Like, oh my God, he got dragged so bad this month after what happened, okay? And she's there trying to, I try to warn you about them, right? So them guys are these wise men, right? So we thought that they're great and wise. That's how they portray themselves to be. But in fact, they are causing hell in this person. They are the ones that initiate all these problems, right? These people there at the top.
So I cross my thoughtless heart, spread my wings like a parachute.
So now, right, in this final chorus, she is the speaker again, right? So I cross my thoughtless heart, spread my wings like a parachute, right? Remember that the albatross has the largest wingspan of all the birds. This is why she is comparing her wings to a parachute, right? And isn't a parachute used to save somebody, right? When they are falling, whenever we fall from an airplane, we put on a parachute so that we can glide down to safety, right? And fly. So she is the one now making this promise, maybe hastily, maybe without thinking things through, but she is what?
On the albatross, I swept in at the rescue.
Right? I'm the albatross. I swept in at the rescue, right? So now she is owning being the albatross, but she is bringing us back to reality, the truth, because the albatross was always innocent. The albatross is what saves the mariner in the first place. And they do, whenever today, like if you are out to sea sailing and you see an albatross, probably you know that, the waters are safe, or they're going to go towards safety and you can follow them, right? In both poems, the albatross, they suffer under this perception that they are either dangerous or this outcast in society, when in reality we know their true value and how they can guide us, right? And they can protect us from all the harsh realities of the natural world.
And the devil that you know looks now more like an angel.
Right? So the devil that you know looks now more like an angel, right? So her being perceived as the devil that you know, now she's like, well, actually, she's not the devil. She's an angel, right? She's here. She's protecting me. She's helping me. She's saving me, okay?
What the life you chose and all this terrible danger.
Right? I'm the life you chose in all this terrible danger, right? Because, loving Taylor and being with Taylor is an entire life that you have to choose, right? So again, right, you chose this. You fell in love with me, or, we assumed this person fell in love with her, honestly. And now they are going to live this life together. And it is a dangerous life from one perspective, but it's not all dangerous, right? It's actually, it can be very good. It depends what? How you behave and how you act. We can go back all the way back to, I think it was Reg, when she was giving those interviews. And she said, if you don't want me to write a song about you, don't do anything wrong. Don't do anything bad. Don't hurt me, right? Don't cheat on me. Don't do something shady. So it always goes back to men's action, and men's, I mean human beings, right? We are the ones that create the danger and turn things sour from sweet, right?
It's terrible danger. So I ask you to fly. She's the albatross. She is here to destroy you.
Right, so she ends the song with back with the wise men giving their final warning, right? Cross your thoughtless heart. She's the albatross. She is here to destroy you, all right? These guys, they never give up, right? Trying to destroy people who are just trying to live their lives and be happy, and seeking for their own version of success. But do you guys realize how this song really, and again, most people, they get stuck thinking that this is about, boyfriend XYZ, boy XYZ, and it's really not about the men, but it's actually about society. It's actually about the media, right? It's actually about how we react about her relationships and the men that she chooses to love, right? We can very recently go back to when she was both, right? Either Maddie Healy or Travis Kelsey. One, Maddie Healy, and again, right, Maddie Healy is very loved in his community, right? He has crazy fans, just like Taylor has her fans. And they just couldn't believe how he was dragged, right? And how he was rained fire on that man, during that 1 month. And the way that people reacted was really pretty crazy, I thought. And with Travis, as soon as news broke out, when he said, right, he went on his podcast, talked about the bracelet. Everyone's like, don't do it, right? Don't get with her. She's gonna ruin your career. She's gonna give you bad luck. You're gonna start losing games. Blah blah blah, right? Every time she went to a game, it was a problem. So it's like we are the problem, right? We are the ones that are driving because, and guys, I will always do this. I'm going to bring it back to us because I feel like if every individual does their part, right, the whole will work itself out. The reason why we have these media outlets and these news outlets that sensationalize all these things is because we consume them, right? It's because we are part of the narrative. We're part of the conversation. We are fomenting and feeding this little monster. So, she is here very clearly alluding to the dangers that it is being with the most famous woman in the world right now, and that all these guys know exactly what they're getting themselves into. It's no secret. She's tried different strategies, and I think that she's come to a point in her life and a maturity in her life where she's realized how she is most happy, and I think she is doing what she wants now. And I just want us as fans and supporters of Taylor Swift to just respect her, the human being, right? The woman that she is, and try not to feed this machine, right? So that she can have some peace and be happy. So, guys, this was a long class, okay? A lot of information, a lot of new expressions. Do the writing exercises. Also practice all this new vocabulary that you are learning. Always, guys, learn to tell this story to somebody else, right? Learn so that you can share. That's how you really, really learn, right? When you can teach somebody else, so you can talk about it and comment. So I can't wait to talk to you guys about this class on our next live. And here are your thoughts and your comments, okay? Thank you guys so much, and I will see you in our next meeting. See ya.